It's a shift many had predicted, some going back to President Trump's election, but it doesn't make what's happening any less scary for many, as the Supreme Court is poised to strike down the landmark Roe v. Wade decision that legalized abortion nationwide. A leaked draft opinion from the court was published by Politico late last night and confirmed today by Chief Justice John Roberts. In it, Justice Samuel Alito declares Roe, quote, must be overruled, end quote, along with another court ruling that further protected abortion access. So although some states like Massachusetts have their own legislative protections, if or more likely when the Supreme Court ruling is officially released, millions of people in states without such laws will lose access to safe and legal abortions. And that's likely to have a big ripple effect across the country, including here, in many different ways. I'm joined now by Jessie Mermel, former Vice President for External Affairs for Planned Parenthood of Massachusetts, and Renee Bracey-Sherman, an abortion rights activist. Renee, I just want to start with you. You're the author of Saying Abortion Aloud. How did we get here? What is happening?
Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, we've been coming to this moment for decades, right? Because our legislators have not taken abortion access seriously. They have not fought back as hard as they could on all the restrictions that we've seen across the country. And they've not made abortion access a priority. They have not understood how important it is to all of the rights that we hold dear in this country. I've been in this movement for 10 years, and I was definitely told we would never see the end of Roe, and yet here we are. But an important thing is that people should understand abortion is still legal. This was just a draft, but it does show what the court is thinking. And that's what's really scary. They are talking about rolling back Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey, making it so that not everyone will have access to legal abortion across the country.
Jessie, Renee makes the point. Many people who usually don't predict what they think the Supreme Court will do have been predicting this because of who's on the court. The issue here is how far it seems they were willing to go, even in a draft memo, to overrule rule. I want to take a look at a Washington Post ABC News poll that was released today regarding views of Roe v. Wade. The question was, should the Supreme Court uphold or overturn Roe v. Wade? 54% said uphold, 28% said overturn. These numbers have been, pretty consistent over the decades, which makes us wonder if we were being warned that Roe v. Wade would be overturned, why haven't more people taking action? Not only the lawmakers, but also citizens.
Listen, Sue, as you know, the words "you were right" are some of my three favorite words in the English language, but I've never been so devastated to be right as I was when that alert showed up on my phone late last night. Those of us in this movement, like Renee and so many others, have been sounding this alarm for decades. 12, 13 years ago, I was working at Planned Parenthood League of Massachusetts. I sat in the office of a powerful committee chairman in the State House, asking for a bill to move forward to protect abortion rights here in Massachusetts. I, along with other activists, talked to that chairman and said, Roe is in jeopardy. The activists on the other side are chipping away and seeking to ultimately overturn Roe. And this chairman literally laughed in my face. And I see Renee nodding her head, and I'm guessing it's because she and so many of her colleagues have had the exact same experience. We are here because activists, largely women, and so many of them women of color, have been ignored. It is a tale as old as time, and quite frankly, shame on us if we don't learn this lesson. And Sue, I want to be clear, we have protections right now in Massachusetts, but we are about to face a major crisis here around abortion access as the crisis around the country spills over into our borders. So do not let anyone think that we are safe and not going to feel the ramifications of this here in the Commonwealth.
Renee, who are the people who are most likely to be accessing abortion treatments throughout the country?
Honestly, everyone watching this loves someone who's had an abortion. People have abortions all the time. 1 in 4 people will have an abortion. The majority of us are people of color or people of faith. The majority are already parenting, and we need access. It's simply one moment in our reproductive lives that allows us to decide if, when, and how to grow our families. Seeing this restriction is what's terrifying because it's not only going to impact people who are seeking abortions, but it's going to impact people who are experiencing miscarriages, IVF, anything related to pregnancy, because the anti-abortion movement has been clear that they will not stop at abortion. They are going for contraception. They are going for everything. They're going for trans rights. They're going for marriage equality. They're going after trans children right now. This is about all of our ability to create our families on our own terms and live our lives as free people.
I want to take a quick look at this other Washington Post ABC News poll about views about who should regulate abortion. The question, do you think the decision to have an abortion should be regulated by law or should be left to the woman and her doctor? 70% said woman and her doctor. And Jesse, I was listening to someone today, a couple of experts actually talking about how the reason why the right to abortion may not be in the Constitution is because the founders actually viewed it as a medical issue and didn't think it was something that should be included. Having said that, you know, as we enter this midterms start now, midterm primaries start now across the country in some states. Is this a wake-up call to Democrats, progressives, independents, Republicans who are fair-minded and actually want to protect the right to choose? Is this going to get people out to vote for people who are looking to uphold Roe v. Wade?
Let's be clear, it has to be. There is no other choice if we want any chance of protecting not just access to abortion rights, but as Renee so smartly articulated, countless other rights that are tied to this. It is all interconnected, and the anti-abortion far-right extremist movement is looking to go after all of them. So yes, it is not just about putting on a knit pink hat and going and marching in the street. We have to do the work. Donate to candidates, organize your friends, knock on doors, vote. I voted today in my municipal election in Brookline because you know what? Every election is an election about abortion rights from here on out. And Sue, that poll that you just put up, plus the data you showed a few minutes ago, makes something really clear. Americans support abortion rights, and they understand that it is a decision between the person having an abortion and their doctor, period, full stop. What is happening is the work of far-right extremists who have taken over the Supreme Court and are advancing their agenda. This does not reflect the will of the American people. And if we organize and get to work, we can do everything possible to stop it and turn this around. Even if it takes time, we can do the work and make it happen.
Renee, I saw some what I thought was legitimate criticism on Twitter, of all places, about the media and how when the media has been covering abortion rights and abortion access over the past at least 10 to 15 years, we tend to present it as this controversial subject, and we tend not to speak directly about the impacts of abortion, both positive and negative. And at a time when we, I think, are at the lowest numbers of abortion per capita that the country has ever seen, do you think the media has done a very poor job here in explaining and talking about abortion in a way that most Americans, you know, the numbers that are showing here, the 60% or so abortion Americans who support the right to abortion, that we're just doing a bad job?
Unfortunately, absolutely. I think for a long time, the reason I shared my abortion story for the first time was because I would read articles about abortion and not see anyone who sounded like me, looked like me, was even saying I had an abortion as part of the conversation. Our voices need to be heard. And if we're not part of that, if abortion is only talked about as a theoretical issue and not something that everyone knows someone who's having, it's not a medical decision, then people aren't going to understand it. I also think it's really important that people understand talking about it solely as a political issue and not the medical care that it is, not talking about the ways in which the anti-abortion movement is using fake science and all sorts of lies to push misinformation about abortion. And it's treated as if it's just a difference of opinion. That's terrifying. And we need journalists, especially right now, to show up with facts and information and the stories of people who have abortions so that everyone knows what's at stake and so we can truly liberate abortion for all for real this time.
I want to play some sound now from Senator Mazie Hirono. She's a Democrat from Hawaii. She was speaking earlier today about how she thinks the next legal protection to fall will be marriage equality.
I think what's next is going to be Obergefell, which is the Marriage Equality Act. And just as Alito signals the decisions that he would like to revisit, and Thomas and Alito have already said they would like to revisit Obergefell.
So, Jesse, we were told by a number of Supreme Court justices that Roe was settled law. And I tweeted today that I guess what that meant, it was settled in their head that they wanted to overturn it. None of us are legal experts, but I think we clearly understand how the interconnectivity of some of these rights are. Why should people who think that same-sex marriage and right to contraception are things we should have guaranteed, why are people worried about that now based on this draft?
Because Justice Samuel Alito literally told us in no uncertain terms that that's what they're coming for next, right? He cited the case. He made clear that he considered it just as weak of an argument as he considered Roe to be, certainly not agreeing with that assessment, just relaying what he articulated. And we have seen this across the country as trans rights are under attack right now, not something that's happening down the road, something that's happening right now. We know that this far-right extremist conservative movement is currently coming after the LGBTQ plus community. That would be marriage, that would be transgender rights, and so many other protections. It is connected to abortion rights. It's connected to interracial marriage, which we had a United States Senator bring up as something that should be sent back to the states just a few weeks ago. It's connected to voting rights. If you care about any of these things for yourself, for someone you love, or just for humanity, you need to open your eyes, pay attention, and get active because everything is in jeopardy. That's not reading between the lines. That is what the conservatives are telling us clear as day.
Renee, as we close, what's one thing that someone can do today to work to guarantee abortion rights?
I'm not just going to give you one, I'm going to give you three. One, share your abortion story. If you're out there and you've had an abortion, your story deserves to be heard. Two, we need people to show up and support their local abortion fund and their local abortion clinics. And three, we need everyone to understand that our past doesn't have to be our future when it comes to quote unquote illegal abortions. People can safely self-manage their abortions with 1 mifepristone pill and 4 misoprostol pills. The risk is in criminalization. And so we need to talk about the over-criminalization of healthcare in this country, particularly abortion, as we move into this next moment.
Renee Bracey Sherman, Jesse Mermel, thank you for joining me.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us.